Hi, everyone. Shazna Jai here with One Heart Mission and now Urban Wisdom, my podcast channel. And I'm so excited to have today a very dear friend from so long ago, Marguerite Rigaloso. And she has uh, just really, I'm so proud of her. She's blossomed like crazy. And she has written her third book called The Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception, Mary and the Lineage of Virgin Births. Oh my God, what a hot subject this is. And one very important for this timing that we're in, and us claiming our personal freedom and our sacred living, which is one of my principles. And so when we reconnected, I got so excited to see what you're doing so we could share together. So thank you so much for being here. I'm so honored.
Thank you for having me, Shayna. It's really great to connect like this after all these years.
Yeah, almost 20 years ago we
Yeah,
met.
yeah,
Yeah,
amazing. We'd have our sushi dinners and talk about all sorts of amazing, uh, advanced consciousness topics. And I know we've both had our journey over
yes,
20 years. Yeah.
absolutely. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the book, because that's really a hot subject, and we'll go from there. So
Yeah,
yeah,
perfect. Well, is this going to be seen visually by people?
of course, and audio.
And audio. So
Yeah,
I'm now holding up the book for those
yeah.
who are on audio only. But yeah, this was released in April 2021, so I'm very proud. Just released. It's already I'm getting such amazing feedback on it. So what it is about, you know, you're probably aware of the whole Mary Magdalene revolution, right?
Mhm.
That has happened over the last 30 years. I really believe this is the beginning of the Mother Mary revolution in the same way, where we're going to take the veils off of her and just say, whoa, she's not this little bitty passive girl with her face down and submissive that we have been brought up to think of her as by doctrine, even though many peoples and countries around the world have seen her as higher than Jesus, in their beliefs.
Mhm.
But what this book does is it takes one of the gospels that was basically rejected by the Catholic Church as official scripture. So it didn't make the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John New Testament cut. But they kept using this gospel to do these feast days dedicated to Mary, like Mary's presentation in the temple, or Mary's own birth, or different things like that. And I always was like, where are they getting this from, right? Well, they're getting it from what's called the Infancy Gospel of James, this suppressed gospel, which is called one of the apocryphal gospels now. Now, originally, what I found out is this gospel was called the birth of Mary, because that's what it's about. It's not the infancy of James. Nobody even knows who James is. It's the birth and infancy of Mary.
Oh,
James was a witness to everything that happened. He's the one who wrote it all down. Why? Because he was one of the sons of Joseph from a previous marriage. Joseph was a widower when he was connected with Mary. And in this gospel, they never married. They're not spouses. He is her guardian. And what I show, I look at this in a very deep way, but a very readable way. That's one big comment I've been getting from people. This is readable, this is accessible, because my first books on divine birth were quite, a bit more academic, but this one is like, goes down like, honey, right? And so what I do is I apply all my previous research on divine birth in the ancient Mediterranean world, especially Greece. And when I looked at this gospel, I said, oh my gosh, I know what they're talking about. I know what that symbol means. I know what that action means. I know what that configuration of events means. And this is what I do in this book. I
just break
flesh it
it all
all out.
down.
I flesh it all out in order to show that Mary was in a lineage of divine birth priestesses, starting with her mother Anne, who gave birth to her miraculously.
Yeah.
Going back to Sarah, the biblical mother of Isaac and the wife of Abraham, okay, extending across to Elizabeth, the mother of John the Baptist, who was their relative, and that these women were part of, that was only one lineage of these types of priestesses. There were many of these types of lineages all over the world, and certainly all over the Mediterranean world. And what I do is I show how Mary was trained, and as best as possible, how she accomplished the divine conception, given the shards of evidence in this gospel. And so it basically gives us a whole new view of Mother Mary as an active, conscious, willful creator of the entire advent of the Christ consciousness to the planet through her willed action in cooperation with her family lineage and the interdimensional beings that she was working with.
Absolutely. Wow, that should shock a few people that are following with a myopic view. One way to see Mary, Jesus, the whole birth situation. I remember when early on when I was living in Sedona, that I read this book called The Nine Faces of Christ. And you and I might have talked about it early on,
Did we?
because when he got old enough to do all of his travels, and he himself wanted to go travel to all these different countries by foot so that he could meet the people, and his intention at the time wasn't to deliver the gospel. It was to meet the people and learn about the cultures in those areas. That's a simple way of saying it. And he would always go home to Mary,
Yeah.
to get rejuvenated,
Yeah.
to have his energy centers brought back into alignment so he could go out again.
Well, you know, that's really interesting because in one of her suppressed biographies, she was the head of the Catholic Church, the Christian Church at the beginning. She was at the head of, they didn't call it Christianity, they didn't call it Catholicism. She was the head of the Jesus spiritual movement to spread the teachings of love around the planet in the known world then, and it from West Asia and so forth. The apostles would do the same thing. Every Easter they would come back to her, and so what I'm understanding is now they were doing that for that infusion of her energy. Yes. And
She truly was a priestess, and
she
that's
was a
what we
priestess. I
do.
mean, this book is only the beginning because I have already taught the material from the second book.
Yeah.
And that class is called the Mother Mary Mystery Teachings. And that's where I put all of this stuff, some of the stuff from this book, and then everything else that I found about Mother Mary as a mentor to Jesus, a teacher to Jesus when he was in the womb, as teacher to Mary Magdalene, teacher to the other apostles, um, an exorcist, healer, and she was literate. So and she ascended, she had her full ascension. We're talking these days about ascension this and ascension that, right? Well, hello, Mother Mary did it. Maybe we want to take a look, right? So
Right.
all of that's in my class, and it's going to be in my next book. But for this book, this is the one that has to open the door,
Uh,
because we need to first understand Mary in the way that she's primarily been shown to us, which is a girl who gave divine birth. Now, even though those people, like you're saying, who might be a little shocked at this initially, if they are open, they will actually find the rationale for the divine birth possibility in this book,
yeah.
because this book allows thinking people to make sense of this claim without having to just accept it as a kind of anti-biological, faith-based concept that we just need to accept without any further question. But this allows us to accept the concept. And then it allows us, though, to understand more deeply what's underneath that, which is why this information has been suppressed.
Yeah.
because this information opens the door to not only Mary's womb, but every woman's womb and her powers. What can be done with the womb? How we can connect with these powers in order to conceive divinely in the way Mary did, but also to conceive divinely through sexual union with a man, because there's a whole other series of teachings connected with this. So, and it's how to clear the womb so that you can be a vessel and a channel for high level healing energies and creativity energies. So, this is the dawning of the age of the womb, as I call it.
Yeah, and the hard work for me is having people understand how important it is to be conscious through the whole, whatever growth path you're taking, whatever you want to learn in sacred spirituality, you want to learn it in a very conscious way, not in theory, but in experience. And when you start doing the exercises that I'm hearing you're offering,
Yes.
these exercises will open you up so you see the true power of what you're actually here for.
That's right, because underneath this book, underneath Mary's practices or Mary's ability to conceive divinely, were literally Sri Kaleshwar, the Hindu saint who brought forth a lot of information about the Holy Family, says that she had millions of lifetimes. Now, because she already did it, we can cut to the chase more
Yeah.
quickly. We don't have to do those same million lifetimes, but we do need to get in sync with what she knew in order to be able to conceive divinely and do all of the other miraculous things that she did, which it comes down to a number of things: working with sound in a quantum way. And so what that brings in the whole mantra and prayer practices that Kaleshwar has revealed that she engaged in, which I now teach because I was certified through his system. These are a series of mantras, which are, words that are strung together with sacred syllables, each one of which connects you with the angelic beings.
Right.
And then yantras, which are images, sacred images that draw in energies, and many other practices. I mean, she was channeling. She was up at a certain hour, meditating and talking with the angels and so forth. So she really had those practices down, and all of those practices are accessible to us. As I said, in that other course that I have, the Holy Womb Chakra teachings, people can start entering that material.
Mm-hmm. We did, I've been to India 4 times. And in our teachings from my master's avatars in South India, it's all about the original yogas, the 24 yogas, and doing them as a daily practice so that you're not outside of where God is, that God is with you all the time. And they said, which I really loved, breaking it down in a simplistic way is like, how to develop a friend with a relationship with a friend that can create a relationship as best friend. Well, when you have your divine to talk to every day and ask the deeper questions in sincerity, in a sincere way, didn't want to mix up that word there, in a very sincere way, then you get the answers and you get the opening that you're meant to have to teach you. And so your piece of the puzzle here is offering those women, which I know many, and I know exactly where to send this out,
Yes.
many priestesses that are holding a conscious space for divine union.
Yeah.
Very, very important. And to bring in the whole womb aspect,
Yes.
and treating ourselves and that part of our body as, as sacred as it is. I just read something today that was really juicy. One of my dear friends from Sedona, Aluna Joy Yakin, she's a Mayan priestess, and she's has these dates that the last 2 weeks we have been clearing deep chakra stuff. And this week that we're in, April 26th to the 30th, it's clearing the womb space.
Wow.
And it's energetically, we're perfect in time, you know, what we're doing. We even wore the same color today.
I know, I noticed that.
Like,
That was
I
fun.
got the memo.
The red womb, right? You know, the red,
Right.
red,
And the passion. So what I want to ask you is, because I'm curious now, do you have, with all the research you've done, do you have information on who her teachers were, if she had any, in the physical realm, or was all of her information as a download and personal experience with her divine?
She would have had, well, let's put it this way. Her teachers in the lifetime in which we know her as Mary were, number one, her mother Anne, and yes, number two, the priestesses of the Hebrew temple, who would come to tend to her, purify her, do whatever rituals and uh, you know, things that they were doing with her, but from the time she was born until she was 3.
Yeah.
And then those same virgins took her into the temple when her parents gave her over, and continued to raise her in the temple, where we mostly hear that her teachers were the angels, the angelics.
Okay.
So you see, and so that was in this lifetime. Now, again, if indeed she had millions of lifetimes before, she would have had many lifetimes where she had teachers. And in fact, one thing that I've really come to embrace during this process of this research is that something that Rudolf Steiner said, and that is now making complete sense to me. Her previous incarnation to this was the goddess Isis.
That makes sense. That's the first
Right?
name that came up for me.
Yeah. So she was learning a lot in her lifetime as Isis. She learned one technology for divine birth, which was using a sacred phallus dildo and doing it with Osiris interdimensionally. But by the time she becomes Mother Mary, she knows how to engender all of that herself. She knows how to activate parthenogenesis. She does not need the action of any kind of male energy. And so that is how she's able to become one with Mother Divine fully, who becomes she and the angels are her main teachers in this lifetime.
Yeah.
And she's able to become one with the divine, become that androgyne, and then create the conception from there using light and sound, which I talk about in the book based on what's in that gospel and cross-referencing with the Greek material.
Interesting. So not to move away from this, but to add to, I'm curious about the sharing sexual energy. So bringing a little bit of this information into our time now,
Yeah.
where I've actually just gotten personally myself, where I think I'm kind of done with relationships.
Yeah.
Because I have so much love inside. I can, and I used to go to sleep about a couple of years ago. I just, what the heck, I'm with my angels all the time. So I would go, oh, I could really use a hug. I tell you what, within seconds, I felt my entire body hugged, and I went right to sleep. And I went, oh, I think I'm going to ask for that more often. And, so I feel so fulfilled that I may not ever venture, into relationship again. So,
well, that's often what can happen with a person in the elder years. And Mary was able to accomplish it at 12 years old.
wow.
Now, so because she and Joseph never were conjugal partners. And what I'm coming to understand is that even those references to Jesus's brothers and sisters in the Bible, the New Testament, really is still referring to Joseph's children by the previous marriage. So that Joseph had nothing to do with the pregnancy, but he was the guardian of Mary. See, these females have guardians that have their back and work with them energetically to support them in their parthenogenesis, or in earlier phases, or not earlier, at some point in the divine birth practices, sacred marriages were engaged in with male astral beings or male physical beings. But the real original pure practice of this was parthenogenesis. Mary engaged it. It required virginity on every level, a sovereignty, no entry of male energy in any form to come into the holy womb chakra, because you did not want to adulterate. You did not want to mix those other energies. You wanted to get a pure, clean bloodline that's coming through the woman. And you didn't want to get any other ego energies involved, which is what typically can happen through regular sexual intercourse and karma. So Jesus was a pure soul, and Kaleshwar says this was his first lifetime on earth. And, okay, so that he's not a reincarnating being then. He came in purely. So, you know, there's a lot, you know, virginity as a technology, not as a moral obligation, and not as an imposed rule. But it came to be that because everybody said, well, Mary was so holy and she was a virgin and virginity was part of her holiness. So let's make all women virgins, or at least let's say they cannot have sexual activity at this time in their life or at that time in their life, right? But so this is also unhooking the oppressive nature of the virginity requirement from women, which is particularly important, I think, for those brought up Catholic who have that programming very strongly. I mean, I did. It's still, the clutches of the church can still reach into me with that, that feeling of guilt somehow, like even if you're in a relationship or even if you're in a marriage, you know. So, yeah, there are a lot of pieces here.
There definitely is. And I, you know, my teaching, if you will, and what I've been guided to teach is conscious awareness. And in this time where we have been so separated and divided from our most beautiful, revered, sacred self. And so I'm looking at these interviews as ways, bridges, so that people can see, okay, so how can I make this conscious in my life right now? So let's talk about for a moment, if you don't mind, we could switch to mastering the moment, which is one of the things that I've been talking to a lot of people about. And I'm curious what your take is on what some of the challenges would be for taking your concepts and living in the world that you're living in. How would you guide the young women of today to be conscious in the moment?
I think that very simply becoming quiet, closing your eyes and breathing, releasing the thoughts of the day. It usually takes about 10 minutes of deep breathing to do that. And then coming into the silence so that you can connect with divine Sophia intelligence. And she will start giving you information and answers to your questions. And there are more elaborate ways of effecting a meditation. I've also taught a running energy type of meditation that will get you into really a full-blown oracle place. But that's where you're able to access your goddess self, your information from your goddess self, which is at one with consciousness, with source, with Mother Divine. I always think that that is a primary place to go. And another primary place to go would be, of course, doing this mantra yantra practice of the holy womb chakra system to clear energetically what you don't even know is gunked up energetically. But once you do it, you will learn, synchronicities will start happening, signs will start coming to you that you've done this clearing and that some empowerments are coming to you. And I would say being in touch with the earth, going on walks, being in touch with your body, doing yoga, being fit, eating correctly, and being quite a bit out in nature with nature, no matter what the season, no matter what the temperature, no matter what the weather. and communing with Mother Earth, with her earth forms, with her natural plants, with her animals, because a lot of information comes through there and a lot of healing and settling. So I would say, those are kind of like some 4 food groups, if you will, of how I guide people, how I would guide people and how I do guide people. And then if people really want to develop their oracle practice, this is something else that I teach and will be teaching. I will be teaching an advanced oracle training, the Priestess of the Dove oracle training this fall. Again, I haven't given it for 3 years now, but it will come up. So that women can confidently get their own information, right? And when you're getting your own information, you will know, you'll get the healing techniques, you'll get the empowerments, you'll get the light codes that you need to shift your DNA or activate your DNA, right?
Yeah.
This is all part of it. It's like a do-it-yourself kind of system. And the whole shutdown thing, ironically, facilitated people being alone with themselves or being with various YouTubes or things that were stimulating them or courses, but then for them to be able to take those tools and go deeper and go carry it through on their own, so that they are continually evolving spiritually.
Exactly. And those who have started evolving and have made a commitment to it have really found there's been beautiful responses and experiences that they've had that they wouldn't normally have had given an unconscious point of view of their life. And so I find it the challenge is having, what do you do to make a commitment to yourself? Because I still hear young women especially, and I would say up to 40 years old, saying things like, why did he leave me? And what did I do wrong? And, that to me, that's unconscious. They're not looking at themselves. They're still looking at the outside. And so one of the challenges is bringing them in and staying in.
That's right. Sovereignty, understanding what makes you tick, what traumas are in there to be healed, what shadow elements need love and attention, and how you can fill yourself from source directly. I think we're all on that path. I still am, but I can tell you, having, my nose rubbed in it during this isolation time, I think I got a lot better at handling and moving from solitude to sovereignty, and moving from loneliness to sovereignty and filling from the inside out, right? And then you can have a much better relationship. But we're all so much still in the process of healing, right, Shayna, because of the actions of the negative forces that have been working on this planet for a very, very long time. These are the same negative forces that Jesus and Mary and the whole Holy Family encountered at the time. And I talk about that in the mystery tradition of miraculous conception. They were up against it big time. I mean, what happened to Jesus was like a whole satanic action, right? That they were not really planning on. But it did happen, so they made lemonade out of lemons, right? And they flipped the whole thing. And Sri Kaleshwar, that Hindu master again, discusses how the yogas that they used in order to flip that situation, and how Mother Mary used her womb to actually resurrect Jesus. And that is in my class, the Mother Mary Mystery Teachings, if people want to receive that. So we are having to be tender with ourselves, because many of us are still looking for love, and sometimes, again, in not the best places or the best people. When we're looking for it outside, we're always feeling like we're half halfway, half of something, and we need that other half. But actually, what's happening in present time with all these challenges is we are learning how to become whole in and of ourselves, which is what Mary did and all of these other high level priestesses, in order to have, for them, the divine conception, but for us, it's the divine rebirth, you see.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I completely agree. I feel like the whole lockdown situation was such a gift to all of us,
In many respects.
if we take it that way.
That's right, because the light can always take 50% of a situation. The dark gets 50%, the light gets 50%. And if the light plays its cards right, it can get 51 and grab the timeline, right? And I think you know what I'm talking about with that.
Exactly.
So, that's why it's so interesting that this material on Mary and this book is coming out now, because I actually did this work, almost 20 years ago. And
Wow.
I had my first two books come out in 2009 and 10, and I was already teaching this material on Mother Mary. It was touching a few pockets of people, but now with this book, boom, right? Because the timing is
The
right.
timing, and people are awake to a point where they can actually hear it and want it and are searching for it.
That's right.
So exciting.
Yes, yes. A lot of people are they're saying, "Oh, my mind is blown," when they're reading this book, right?
Yeah.
And there's so much more there. I mean, it's like literally a 2,000-year-old humongous lid is being pulled off and revealing the magic and the truth underneath about Mary and about women.
That's
Something
beautiful.
that has been so stuffed by these negative energies.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't want women to know. That's why everything has been so quieted down, and you can't find any information about Mary in the Bible, because it's like, goodness forbid too much should be said. It might trigger somebody's awakening, and we can't have that. We need to kind of keep them controlled with this idea of,
Yeah.
oh, she was a passive vehicle who didn't know what was happening, and that's how the avatar Christ was able to come in. But it's like, all of these stories of divine birth, I've shown this in the past, they always give short shrift to the mother when she's the most interesting, important piece
She
of it.
is.
You know,
Right.
yes, her child, but how did she get to do that? How holy did she have to be to
Right.
make that happen? How conscious did she have to be? This is
Absolutely.
turning the tables on this now and saying, once again, women is where the power is.
Yeah. And I feel we're so privileged to have this information come out now. And, it's like we're calling for it.
Yeah,
When I went to India the first time, my teacher said, well, you called for me. You were all praying. And so I came to show you, to take you down the path of what a safe awakening and divine intelligence would be like.
that's right.
Because we were so off in the dark, in the cycle, the eon of darkness, the Kali Yuga,
Yuga.
that even it's so dark. And here we're going into the Satya Yuga, the lightest of times. And imagine the gap that we are filling now by being here at this time. And it's bringing in the information that we've known from our past lives, but also, like for me, having survived a fall off of a 50-foot cliff, I could have not been here at 47 years old, but then I survived it so that I could be here, so that I could be a vehicle. And you're the same, so I think it's our job in a way to make sure and usher in that these new generations have much more fullness to what they're dealing with. And the word conscious is so important. So people,
That's right.
please use your conscious awareness, not your programmed. The unconscious is programmed.
That's right. And we're unprogramming ourselves every day of the week. And on the positive side, there are so many starseed souls coming in. I
So
did
many.
connect with them or witness them on the internet and in, in my circles every day,
Yeah.
thankfully they're really coming in with a ability level and a brightness that surpasses what I was and maybe even am presently. I'm like in awe of these people. And
Me too.
so it's kind of a mix. So what we want to do is we want to be working with those people who are already interested in the awakening, or they're just on the cusp. Those are the people that will hear these messages and will be interested in going forward, and who have the door open, because you
Yeah.
cannot really open the door to people where it's who have it shut. And that's their truth, that's their path. The right now is not an initiation for everybody into 5D, fifth
Yeah.
dimensional consciousness.
It's not. It's true. And in fact, you're just reminding me, one of the teachings I had when I became a trainer for my Oneness University was, are you a dabbler or a window shopper, or can you really commit to your path? Because a dabbler is just going to check this book, that book. Okay, that's nice. Oh, that sounds good, but don't really have any experience to it. And a window shopper will buy something and try it on and then not do something with it, go window shopping again. So you get closer, but it's not till you really commit in conscious awareness that what you want in your path is to usher in what's inside that's really in your heart.
That's right. And sometimes it takes a lot of dabbling and window shopping and trying on and returning and going here and going there, combined with some kicks that life will give us and some humblings that we need to do. That's what will make the commitment. Like for me, I did not want to commit to the Holy Womb Chakra system of mantras and to do them, even though I had been taught this great system, because I was like, well, I don't know. Mantras are not really for me. I don't know. This is a whole other system. Da di da di da. And then when I had a scare with a lump on my ovary, I got the message from Mother Mary when I went into meditation. She said, yes, we're really wanting you to do this system and to charge this for yourself. That's when I went into that level of commitment about that. Now, I've always been on some level committed to the spiritual path, but I've never been committed to a system of teachings or anything like that.
Uh-huh.
And so I think it's a mix of finding the systems that will work for you or work for you for a time. And
Right.
it might be that you move on, but as long as you have that abiding commitment in your own spiritual ascension, what I call ascension,
Oh,
it will
beautiful.
happen, and it will happen more and more and more. Things are really accelerating, as we know, right?
Right. Right. Oh, I love that word, ascension. That's beautiful.
Because it's an inside job. That's why that's what I say about it.
That is so true. That's why I like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It fits. The word ascension has never really fit for me.
Yeah, because it plays into that almost programming, if you will, of coming out of your body, coming out of this world. And
Yeah.
really, what we're being called to do is to go deeper, which is one of the things that the Holy Womb Chakra teachings honestly are all about,
Yeah.
is that going deeper into the body, going deeper into, the interior realms of reality and so forth, going
Yeah.
into the fractal.
Yeah. Exactly. And then talking about fractal, that leads to a whole nother discussion on symbolism, which we can talk about at another time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I work a lot with symbolism in the new book, The Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception. I tease out all these various symbols and I say, wow, I can tell you what this means. I can tell you what that means from my previous research. And that's what helps open people up. So
Yes.
symbols are powerful.
They very much so are. They very much so are. Yeah, wow. Wow. So, in a nutshell, what would you say? What would you like to say before we close?
Yes, yes. Well, I would say to people that we are in a very exciting time. And if any of this material has resonated for you, intrigued you, opened a door, put on a light bulb, I would say to really find my book, The Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception. It's in paperback, it's in ebook, it's in audio. You can hear the transmission of my voice. I worked very hard on this in January of 2021 to put that through, and I, was in prayer and it was very intentional with the energies coming through. And I would say check out some of the courses that I've spoken about that I offer, because they are beautiful companions to help you expand your understanding of this and go deeper into this in your personal life, particularly the Holy Womb Chakra teachings. There is a beautiful set of teachings that you can tap into and decide what level you want to go deeper with, that will really affect your life along the dimensions of everything we've been talking about today. So, and finally, if you have a relationship with Mother Mary, or you think you might want to develop one, or you are just curious, simply become quiet and reach out to her and ask her to be in communication with you. And if it should come time to be a mentor for you, or a healer, or both, a teacher, and you will be able to start engaging in conversation with Mother Mary, and she will be right there with you and for you. And that could be a very beautiful unfolding and point of evolution for your own life. So anyway, any of these courses can be found at sevensistersmysteryschool.com, and the seven is written out SEVEN. And the book and all of its versions can be found anywhere books are sold, and particularly Amazon carries the Audible and the ebook.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I will put the link to your website in the description, so people will have easy access to it when they see your beautiful face.
Wonderful.
And I just have to say how wonderful it's been having you here, and your wisdom, and please follow her wisdom. She knows what she's talking about. And she's not just somebody who picked up a book and is repeating somebody else's stuff. No, this is true wisdom and experience. And so I'm sure you have a lot of stories to talk about in your own journey, as I do, that illustrate how the teachings actually work. So maybe we'll do that another time.
All right.
All
Very
right.
good. And meanwhile, thank you so much, Shana, for this opportunity. It's really great to be connected with you again. And I just send blessings out to all those who will be watching or listening to this.
Thank you. And me too. Blessings from my heart to yours. We will talk again soon, and I look forward to you